The book I'll be sharing with you is titled Oklahoma, It's My State. So, I want to share this map here. Shows you exactly that Oklahoma is kind of not really the belly button. Kansas would be the belly button, but it's definitely in the Bible Belt of the United States. The Sooner State. A nickname that Oklahoma has come to have is called the Sooner State. The population is 3,523,000, and it became a state in 1907. This is one of many books that I have been sharing about Oklahoma. So here in this page, it shows you their bird. It's the scissor-tailed flycatcher bird. This bird almost missed its chance to be an official state symbol in a vote held in 1929. The bobwhite was chosen but never officially adopted. In May of '51, the flycatcher was officially adopted. It is known for extremely long black and white tail, as well as for its elaborate sky dance. I was actually just in Oklahoma and we saw a bunch of these. They're really cool looking birds. Floral emblem, mistletoe. Though mistletoe is not really a flower, it's become an official territory symbol since 1893, before Oklahoma was even a state. The mistletoe lives on trees that grow across the state. The dark green leaves and white berries of the plant are a common sight in Oklahoma in fall and winter. At one point, the bison-filled North America range from Alaska to New Mexico showed the bison population reaching about 60 million. By 1890, there were fewer than 1,000 left. The colored lizard is one of Oklahoma's frequently seen stunning lizards. The settlers probably heard the loud calls of frogs and mistakenly thought it wasn't a lizard. The black swallowtail. As a caterpillar, this insect sports a vibrant pattern of white, black, and green stripes with rows of yellow dots. As a butterfly, the swallowtail is mostly black with bands of yellow. Oklahoma's lands are varied just as its people are. Much of the state is made up of a massing, rolling plain. It slopes gently downward as it folds from northwest to southeast. Those two compass points mark the two extremes of the state's geography. The state's highest point is found at the tip of the Panhandle. The Panhandle is a strip of land 166 miles long and 34 miles wide. As its name suggests, it looks like a panhandle. At 5,000 feet, Oklahoma's highest point offers great views of the surrounding area. The mesa, which is a small, isolated hill with steep sides, was created millions of years ago when lava oozed out of a nearby volcano. Its hardened form created this lookout. It's one of Oklahoma's treasures today. Mesa means table in Spanish. These flat-topped hills with gently sloping sides mark the rolling landscape at Black Mesa Nature Preserve. Oklahoma's lowest point in elevation is found at the opposite end of the state, near Idabel. Close to the border with Texas and Arkansas, the land dips to 300 feet. This region, extending north to the state's border, Missouri is the most heavily forested part of Oklahoma. Almost 1/4 of the state is covered in trees, and many are found clustered in the east. Of all the 50 states, Oklahoma ranks 20th in the total area of land and water. If you just count the land area, Oklahoma is 19th. Eastern Oklahoma. This is a region of flat, fertile plains and low hills. One of the most notable features is the Ozark Plateau. A plateau is a stretch of land with nearly a level surface. Central Oklahoma. The sandstone hills rise 250 to 400 feet, and many of the hills are lined with blackjack and post oaks and other trees. The sandstone hills run almost the entire length of the state. This region includes Oklahoma's second largest city, Tulsa. In the south, the plains eventually are part of what is important to Oklahoma, which is the petroleum industry. Major oil fields are still found there, and in places, crops thrive in the sandy oil. The red bed plains are found to the west of the sandstone hills. Various natural springs flow out of the Arbuckle Mountains. Together they make up Honey Creek, which comes crashing down a 77-foot rock face in the form of Turtle Falls Waterfall. Western Oklahoma. Oklahoma's portion of the Great Plains is found to the west. This elevated region is mostly thick grasslands. It is also home to wheat fields and the grazing lands that fatten many of the state's livestock. The area is also sometimes called the High Plains. Also called a prairie pothole, a sink, or a playa lake, serves as a much-needed oasis in the dry prairie. Livestock and various wildlife rely on the small pools as a valuable source of drinking water. The Gypsum Hills are another unique area in the western Oklahoma. They lie west of the Red Bed Plains and eventually meet the High Plains in the northwestern portion of the state. These hills range in height from 150 to 200 feet, but it's not their size that is impressive. Each of these hills is capped with a 15-foot layer of gypsum, a type of mineral. From a distance they seem to sparkle in the sunlight. Because of that unique feature, they are sometimes called the Glass Hills. This collection of buttes, mesas, and rolling hills appear to be dry, like a desert region. Oklahoma is known for its warm, dry climate. Still, the state sports a range of weather. The northwest tends to be cooler and a bit drier than the other areas in the southeast. Winter months can easily see temperatures drop below zero. In the summer, opposite conditions are the rule. The sun beats down on the trees' grassland, and few things stir the height of midday heat. Temperatures can often crawl well above 100 degrees. On average, the state is visited by more than 50 of these dangerous tornadoes, and that's what they have pictured here. This ranks Oklahoma second in overall tornado frequency. Tornadoes damage property, claim lives, and are just one more reality of the state's residents that they must adapt to. Precipitation, the amount of moisture in the state receives, can greatly vary throughout the state. The southeast averages 50 inches of precipitation. Residents in the southeast can receive light storms dropping on an average of 2 inches. People living in the panhandle, though, often have to shovel their way through up to 25 inches per year. Oklahoma's terrain is diverse. This great variety means the state is home to a wide range of plants and animals. Forests cover between 20 and 25% of the state. Oak, hickory, elm, and pine are some of the trees that make up the woodlands of the east. White-tailed deer, raccoon, foxes, squirrels, and even opossums make their home among the trees. With so many human-made reservoirs and lakes, the state is a fisherman's paradise. Oklahoma is vast country, but the state's fishermen head out in search of anything that bites. Sunfish, crappies, catfish, and carp gather near the shore or swim along the bottoms of the state's waterways. The skies of Oklahoma are the site of an equally impressive collection of animals. Often large flocks blot the sky of single birds soaring. The wild turkey in Oklahoma are the official game bird. Two species call this state their home. The Rio Grande turkey is found in large numbers across the state, and the eastern wild turkey is located mostly in the state's southeastern and northeastern parts. Once threatened, today the state's gobbler population is on the rise. The bony scaly shell of the nine-banded armadillo protects it from predators. Armadillos are good diggers as well as good swimmers. They eat insects, grubs, and occasionally berries and birds' eggs. Female nine-banded armadillos are unique because when they reproduce, they give birth to 4 identical babies. Across the state, on lakes and reservoirs, patient fishermen await to hook these bass, which are also called sand bass. The state sandies, as they're often called, travel in large schools or groups. They eat other fish, mostly shad and insects as well. The white bass is Oklahoma's state fish. Prairie rattlesnakes. If you are hiking in the wilds of Oklahoma, keep your eyes peeled for serpents coiled beneath rocks. While they are very deadly or rarely deadly to humans, the snake's venom can be twice as strong as other rattlesnakes in their region. The prairie rattlesnakes live mainly in grasslands, but in the winter, it moves to dens and outcroppings and rocky ledges. They feed on small rodents and birds that nest on the ground. The red bat. These nighttime flyers are unique in the bat world. They are the only species of bat in North America in which the female and male are different colors. The females tend to be yellow and brown, while the males can be a bright shade of orange. Endangered. Oklahomans love their land and work hard to protect their plants and animals that live there. They try and make sure that the state's many species have healthy populations. These take cooperation. Even creatures living in and out of places need protection. And so here we have an Ozark cavefish. From the beginning, humans have been living in Oklahoma more than 11,000 years. At a site near Anadarko, archaeologists, scientists who study the past, found several spear points and the bones of a mammoth, a large mammal that is now extinct. They have connected these artifacts with a group of people known as the Clovis culture. This ancient group most likely wandered into the region following the roaming herds of animals. The plains proved to be an ideal place to search for food. Many prehistoric creatures came to the grasslands to graze. Oklahoma's mound builders left their permanent mark on the state in places such as Spiro Mounds. They also gathered plants, eating whatever they could find. Then about 2,500 years ago, another shift occurred. They gathered and they would eat whatever they could find. 2,500 years have passed and people settled into a more stable lifestyle. Farming, mostly of corn and beans, became an important source of food. Oklahoma's name comes from combining two Choctaw words, Okla meaning people, and Huma or Homa meaning red. So the state's name literally means red people. The first European to enter Oklahoma was most likely Francisco Vasquez de Coronado. He crossed the region in 1541, leading an expedition that started in present-day New Mexico. Hernando de Soto, another Spanish explorer, may have passed through eastern Oklahoma as well. So this here is a picture of the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears ended as a death march, a journey that claimed 1/3 of the Cherokee who were forced to move west. After the World War in 1812, problems began brewing in the East that would affect the region for many years to come. The U.S. government began its campaign to remove and relocate certain natives from the southeastern states, known as the Five Civilized Tribes. There was Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole. Now they were forced to leave their homeland behind and enter the strange new landscape of the Great Plains. To prepare for the large number of newcomers, officials built forts, including Fort Towns and Gibson. The forts also allowed the U.S. government to keep a watchful eye on the borders. Few of the natives came of their own free will. At first, thousands of Cherokee and other native people were moved to the unclaimed no man's land of the Southern Plains. 1/3 of the Cherokee Nation died while making this journey, now known as the Trail of Tears. The survivors eventually settled on the hills and plains of eastern Oklahoma. There they set about the hard work of rebuilding their communities and their lives. But their arrival was just the first of many. The forced migration continued from 1830 to 1842. All of Oklahoma, except for the Panhandle, was set aside for the Native Americans. Over time, the relocated group settled into their homeland. They each formed their own new nation and built homes and schools. They established courts and legislatures or groups, and they even set up tribal laws. The Cherokee and Choctaw grew cotton, while the Creek and Chickasaw herded livestock. One thing I like about this book is that it shows really neat little things you can do. Like, for instance, here it shows you how to make a Cherokee bear claw necklace. So it says what you would need. I don't know if you can see this little necklace here. It says what you would need were several sheets of newspaper, self-hardening clay, just any clay found at a craft store, a ruler, a butter knife, a needle, and 2 paintbrushes. And you can use any kind of twine. So kind of a neat little activity. Okay, the Civil War and beyond. From 1861 to 1865, the North and South were engaged in the Civil War. During this war, no major battles were fought in Oklahoma. The region was located too far west to be directly involved in the battles. But several minor skirmishes played out on Oklahoma soil. The region remained divided in its loyalties. Having come from the South, many of the members of the relocated native tribes actually owned slaves. When it came time to choose sides, a majority of the Indians supported the South, also called the Confederacy. At first, the Cherokee were reluctant to favor either the Union, the North, or the Confederacy, but representatives from Texas and Arkansas, both states, were part of the Confederacy. So what I'm showing you now here, I don't know if you can see, is part of the Buffalo Hunters set-up camp along the plains in 1870. Not only was the animal driven to the brink of extinction, but the Native Americans who relied on the bison for food and shelter were dealt a severe blow. I know today they are rebuilding the buffalo population in Oklahoma. When the territory was open for settlement in 1889, the land grab and the race to claim valuable acres was on, and that's how it did get its name, the Sooner State. So you can see here they have the covered wagons. As Oklahoma Native Americans moved onto reservations, many settlers grew anxious to claim lands for themselves. They were called the Boomers. Eventually, the government yielded. From the Creek and the Seminole, it brought more than 3 million acres. This parcel was added to the lands taken from other Indian nations. Almost 2/3 of the area, a large part of central Oklahoma, was then declared open for settlement, and that was in 1889. On the morning of April 22nd, 1889, Oklahoma City was a stretch of barren prairie. By nightfall, more than 10,000 people had descended on the region and called that area their home. So as you can see, it really boomed. Dust Bowl days. When the arrival of World War I, the nation had an increased demand for crops and food products, which Oklahoma's farmers helped to supply. But after this short period of propriety, the state's fortunes took a grave turn. Farm prices dropped again, and the Ku Klux Klan, or the KKK, a secret organization that supported violence against African Americans and other minorities, gained in popularity across the state. The influence spread to the city and county governments, in which they held certain key seats of power, and in 1921, in one of Tulsa's darkest moments, an angry white mob threatened to kill an African American falsely accused of hurting a white woman. When residents of the African American neighborhood of Greenwood resisted, violence erupted. Angry Tulsans burned most of the neighborhood. As many as 300 African American residents were killed. Away from the cities, another threat was gaining force. Drought spread across the plains. At the same time, the need for wheat and other crops declined. The state's fields were overplanted and the soil had become overworked. Here in this picture, it's showing us that not every Okie family headed west with only the belongings they could carry. This migrant family takes the road in this photograph in 1938. The hopeful group walked from Idabel to Krebs in search of work and a new and better life. So, to present day, the second half of the 20th century brought even more changes to the state. Leaders and residents worked hard to improve life in the state and to build and strengthen the economy. One major focus was on the irrigation and developing states of the farmlands. Several major projects, such as the reservoir created by Kerr Dam along the Arkansas River, were begun. A few important dates for Oklahoma, and I'm just going to go kind of quickly, I'll show you. So it's beginning at the 1500s, and then it goes all the way to 2007. So 1500s, several Native American nations, including the Arapaho, Caddo, Kiowa, Osage, and Pawnee, reside in the state. Francisco Vasquez becomes the first European to enter Oklahoma. In 1682, Oklahoma is claimed for the French crown by La Salle. And then in 1819, all of the state except the Panhandle becomes part of the newly formed territory of Arkansas. A terrorist bomb destroys the federal building in Oklahoma City in 1985. And then 2007, Oklahoma creates 100 years of statehood. So I'm going to stop there for now. This to be continued. It will go on about the people, but I'm going to stop for now. I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.